All right, guys, we are back with a video on how to create your annotated bibliography. Hopefully you have done all, because you got an extra week. I think you argued to get that extra week to gather all of your resources, take really good notes. So if you did that in Capstone Notebook number 2, this should be fairly easy because a lot of it is a copy paste job. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go over the directions, show you an example, and then that way you understand how to do it. And in another video, we're going to physically show you how to navigate and create this document on Google Docs. Okay.
Right. So as you guys are getting started, this is the Capstone Annotated Bibliography directions. Basically, this is 100 points. What I guess we're just going to read through it so that you understand each piece, and that way we can kind of direct you if you have any issues. A basic component of academic research is the annotated bibliography, which is a list of all the sources you have found during your research so far, and that you may use whatever project you are working on. Your goal for this assignment is to have you use this research that you've already found, present it in a more professional style, as you will most likely do in college. Additionally, this is where you will also show that you can create MLA works cited. This is an evidence of learning assignment, and it's a cumulative assignment that will show all of the knowledge you've gained through the previous capstone notebooks. Your annotated bibliography will be used during conferences, so we can help you with the direction of your research for your outline, rough draft, and final draft. This is the video that we're talking about right there. So that way, if you have any issues that you're struggling with, we're going to hopefully address those right now.
Okay. So specifics, a little bit more detailed about the annotated bibliography. It's a fancy way, again, to say you're going to have your citation, you're going to give me an objective summary of your source, and then you're going to make sure that you tell me your rationale. All these things you already did in notebook number 2. So it's a fancy way to say I need your citation and why you're going to use this source in your essay. So the annotated bibliography is a list of sources you have found so far. Remember, you have 8. The list is in alphabetical order as it would be on your works cited page, and includes a full citation for each source as it would appear on your works cited page. Do this correctly, then you already have a works cited page. You just got to attach it to your essay. In addition, an annotated bibliography also includes what's called an annotation for each source. You've done annotations, I'm sure, throughout your high school career, and they're notes on the source, which is basically an objective summary of the source and some commentary, aka rationale, on why the source is useful to your project. So again, if you've done your source, what you should have done, then it will, all this is a copy paste because we had you do this on purpose. Right. So here's an example. She's got the objective summary. All she's going to have to do is copy that and paste it. She's also got the rationale. We did this on purpose because we wanted this week to be a bit easier, because if you have all your stuff, it's just copy paste and formatting the paper. Okay. Let me go back. Let me navigate back to the directions. Which is why I say, luckily, if you've completed the orange section in your capstone notebook number 2, it should be an easy copy paste job. The only thing that may take a little bit of time is just making your citations. But on that orange, in that orange section of capstone notebook number 2, we asked you to collect that information, so you just have to plug it in.
Right.
This assignment also helps give you a clear sense of where you are headed with your essay. You have your essential question, but now you're going to have to make that thesis statement, and it allows you to figure out, ooh, how am I going to put these puzzle pieces together? All of these sources have to be used, but you got to fit them together. It also allows Ms. Whitworth and I to help you more effectively during your conferences, because when we see this, we can see some of your thoughts, and it gives us a place to talk to you about how to write your essay. Finally, if you do this assignment thoroughly, your outline, which is the next step after this week, and your paper will write itself, because you'll have everything there. And then it's just about making sure that you effectively convey your argument and your ideas.
Right. So the minimum requirements for your annotated bibliography is, of course, you need 8 sources. You're going to have a full works cited citation. for each one of those sources, and you need to make sure it is in MLA format. We're going to talk to you about that. You should know that by now. You guys are seniors. If you don't, we're going to kind of review that for you. We also have different resources on my website, on your Google Classroom. And what I always say is, go to Purdue OWL, because they are the best source on the internet to figure it out. They're the most up to date. The next thing is that you need that objective summary and that rationale. Your objective summary is only 4 to 5 sentences long. However, we do want you to use a sentence variety, so it might look a little bit longer than 4 to 5 sentences, but still keep with that 4 to 5 sentences. This is what we're going to be looking for. You need to stay objective, but then your rationale tells me why you think that this will help you with your research. Okay, so does it add particular perspective? Do you what avenue can you look through? How will it help you? Then you have your formatting requirements. Your formatting is the same thing that we've been doing in MLA citations since, I don't know, 8th, 9th grade, hopefully. It's double space, Times New Roman, 12-point font. You have 1-inch margins all the way around. It is hanging indent for your work citations. You have to have a header on that first page. You have page numbers and your last name starting on page 2. But then with your annotation, we need to make sure that it says annotated bibliography as a title, but then you're going to have a working thesis right underneath it. Everything that you're going to be doing, we want to see that thesis right up front. And when we say working thesis, this thesis is not the thesis that you're going to have in your end capstone, hopefully, but we're working it and we're adjusting it as we go, because the more you learn, the more you adjust, the more your thesis needs to reflect what direction you're going.
Speaking of thesis, if you're, hopefully by the time you've gotten to this point and you're watching this video, you've already gone through the steps of understanding what a thesis statement is and creating kind of your own little thesis statement, your working thesis statement. So if you haven't, you're going to need to go back and do that. I think you already mentioned this one, citations.
Yeah, that they have to be in a correct indent, the hanging indent. I didn't put in there that, or I didn't say that they need to be alphabetical. A lot of times people will put things in there in how, like whatever order they put them in the research, but that's incorrect. They need to be on that works cited page and your annotated bibliography. They need to be alphabetical by the last name.
All right, so we're going to look at a sample just so you understand the direction. And the next video you watch, we'll watch us walk you through setting up your paper, which we hope by now you do know how to navigate Google Docs, but it's always good to have a reminder. Right. So this is an example of the start of an annotated bibliography. It contains 1 entry. Remember, you will have 8 and they will be in alphabetical order by the author's last name. Directly under the title, you're going to type your working thesis statement, which is hopefully going to help answer that essential question. Everything's going back to that essential question. It'll answer it in some way. Next, you're going to have your works cited page citation, which is the information from the source. Directly below that, you have your objective summary and your rationale commentary. And so we've color coded that for you so you can visually see it. We don't want you to color code yours. We just want you to visually see how these parts work together. Correct. So when we talk about MLA format, you've got to have your header or your heading, annotated bibliography. Notice there's no bolded, it's not italicized, it's just, here it is.
It's not 14-point font.
Yep, it's got to be Times New Roman. It's got to be 12 font. All of those things apply here. Then you say working thesis statement, and then you put it. So for this one, in order to significantly improve living conditions of those living in poverty, factors such as building conditions, gang violence, vandalism, crime, and lack of equal access to jobs needs to be addressed separately. So this person is going to be talking about poverty and improving living conditions for those living in poverty. And their argument is that you got to attack all of these different things separately.
And don't think just because a thesis is 2 or 3 lines long on the whole scope of things that it's perfect and it's done. Long is not always perfect. And so where we're looking at, this is a working thesis. I'm looking at this thesis right here and saying there's so much going on, and there's parts of this that are vague. They're not telling me exactly what they're saying. What do you mean by addressed separately? Who's addressing it? And so these are things that they're going, like, the more you write, the more it's going to be focused in the direction that you're going. This is a good thesis, but it's not a great thesis.
And part of the reason we want it here is because that's part of what we're going to look at this and give you feedback on your thesis. So it's very important that you have it on here, because it's going to go through many cycles or many iterations, many versions, if you will, to make it better. The next part is, here is a citation, right? You've got it. When we say hanging indent, that's what this is right here. This is all the citation. Are you okay, Ms. Whitworth? Okay. And then you've got the objective summary. So all this person did would be, let me go to my source, let me copy and paste, copy my objective summary, and let me bring it back over here. And I put it right here, and I highlighted it in green to show you. It is 4 sentences. It looks like it is more, but it is 4. It's just got complex and complex compound sentences.
Right.
So I'm going to kind of read through this, because I think it's going to, when you are writing it, you want to be very objective. There can be no opinion in this section right here. There, you can't have any I statements. You literally got to say, here's what the source said. So McNamee explains the poor living conditions of the Ida B. Wells housing project and makes the implicit argument that several factors contribute to the problems experienced by the area. He uses several different sources of information to support his argument. So he is the writer of this essay is telling you that this source, here's what this source is doing. He describes the area and the building conditions, interviews residents and experts on the history of Chicago public housing, describes, I want you to think about those verbs that I'm using. As a writer, when you're writing your annotated bibliography, you want to describe, you want to say things like that. The author describes da 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 da. The author argues da 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 da. The author's overall purpose seems to be to inform readers of the terrible living conditions. The main argument is da 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 da. Those are the kinds of phrases you want to use in an objective summary. And hopefully you've done that when you wrote your objective summary. So it's just going to be a copy paste job. If you know you didn't do so good, maybe you tweak it a little bit, because this is the evidence of learning. When you turn this annotated bibliography in, that's the evidence of learning.
And ultimately, the orange notebook, the orange part of your notebook, that was kind of your notes. And so we're asking for that objective summary. But if you go back and you look through and you got some me's and I's, this is where you're going to go, hey, you know what? Let me reflect on what I've done here and then correct it for the new assignment, because this is what we're going to be doing through this whole capstone process. That's the process that we're looking for. Each thing that you do becomes the next step with a little bit of tweaking.
Very good. Then the final part, you can see it's a little bit shorter. It's still a couple sentences, but this is where the student is saying, here's how I'm going to use this source for my essay. I've told you what the source is. And so then the student says the source provides a general overview of the problem in Ida B. Wells, some background on the area, as well as essential statistics. So these are things that you would want to point out to us. Oh, here's where I'm going to get statistics. Here's, a definition, etc., about the project and the people living there. It will be useful. I love this phrase, and I think this is something that you should do. It will be useful for both that kind of factual information as well as McNamee's explanations of where these problems have come from. This last part, this will support my argument that poverty issues are multifaceted and each component must be addressed separately. So this part may have an I statement in it, because it's where you're saying, look, this is how I'm going to use this.
Right.
So ultimately, you will have a large document. This is one entry, right? Your document is going to be, you have 8 entries that you have to do.
And this is where it's important that you remember to go back and put that page number on the second page and beyond, because you will have so many pages that like if we were, with COVID, we're not really printing it, but in a non-COVID society, we would print this and then we would need it to be in order. So
Right.
make sure it has your name, last name, and then page numbers.
And we're going to go through that process of setting everything up in the next video. So I think that is it for this one. Adios, muchachos.